This video is going to be slightly longer than the others. I hope to explain to you in this video how and why we use parent and child objects. So at the moment, if you look at the objects menu that I have here, okay, I have a number of different monsters. Now you might only have one at the moment, and that's absolutely fine. But I've got 3 different monsters, and I've got one that moves horizontally, I've got one that moves vertically, and I've got one that moves randomly. Now that's not so much an issue in itself, but when I have objects like my bullet object, if I open that up, you can see in my bullet object I have to create 3 different collision events for each of the different monsters. So that's inefficient as far as code is concerned. So we use something called parent and child objects. So one of those monsters, one of those enemies, is going to be used as the parent, and then the child objects that link to the parent will automatically adopt all of the settings from the other monster, from the other enemy. So it will become clear as I start working through this section. So what I'm going to do firstly is I'm going to close this down a second, and I'm going to go onto my room. So my room, and I'm going to remove my monsters from the room. Okay. I'm also going to remove my object for my monster, for my random movement monster. So I'm going to delete that object altogether. Let's go back to the workspace, and I'm also going to delete the vertical monster. So all I have left now is my one monster. So you might be in this situation where you have one enemy in your game. So I'm going to create another, in a second I'm going to create 2 more enemy objects, but first off I'm going to remove the sprite from this monster, okay, and I'm going to change the name. So I'm going to right click on there, and I'm going to rename this monster, and I'm just going to call it obj underscore enemy, just so it's just completely different to all the other objects that we've created previously. Alright, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to remove the sprite from my object, because you're not going to actually see this object in game. So you can see that I've still got my collision event set up, I've still got my variable definitions that we've already set up. So this one is the horizontal one. So what I'm going to do now is to create 2 new objects with, or actually 3 new objects that contain the horizontal, vertical and random movement enemies. So I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to create an object, and I'm going to call this obj underscore enemy underscore h for horizontal. Okay. I'm going to add a sprite, so I'm going to click on my sprites, and I'm going to add my monster sprite. I'm going to create a new object, and I'm going to call this one obj underscore enemy underscore v for vertical. Again, I'm going to add my sprite for my monster. I'm going to create one more object, create object, and I'm going to call this one obj underscore enemy underscore r for random. So you can see currently at the moment I have, if I open up my enemy object as well, I've got 4 different objects open here. I've got the enemy object, which is the one without the sprite. I've got my enemy horizontal object with no variables in it, okay. I've got no code in it at all. I've got my vertical one with no variables and no code at all, and the same thing with my random movement enemy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the horizontal, the vertical and the random enemies children of this object, which this means that this object, the enemy object, will be the parent object. Okay, so I'm going to click the parent tab here, and I'm going to allocate children to this object. So I'm going to allocate the first one as the horizontal enemy. Now watch what happens when I select the objects, and I'm going to select the children object of the horizontal, okay, there, and you can see straight away that it's all automatically dragged in the events from this object. Okay, it also copies the variable definitions as well. So let's close that down a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go to objects, and this time I'm going to add the vertical one. And I don't think I put a sprite on that last one. Let's add the sprite onto this random object. Okay, and let's go and add that one in as well. And that is the random one there. Okay, so you can see that I've got three children: horizontal, vertical, and random. There's the horizontal, there's the vertical, and there's the random. If I click on the parent here, you can see that it tells me that the parent is obj enemy. So they're now linked. So the first thing that we're going to do is to reset the movement. So the horizontal one is right because it's set from this. Because if you remember, if I go into the variable definitions, my direction was choose 180 and 0. So 180 is that way, 0 is that way. So that's right, it's a left and right. And when I click on my event and I come over here, it chooses the direction 0 or 180 when it hits the wall. Okay, so you know that anyway because you've done that on the other objects. So that one's correct. So I'm going to come down, I'm going to close the horizontal one down because that one's done. I'm going to go on to the vertical enemy. Now when I click on the variable definitions, you'll see that these are greyed out. So I can't change them. I can change them. I'm going to show you how to do it. So what I want to do is to change the direction from 0 or 180, which is that way, to that way. Okay, so I wanted to go up and down. So I'm going to click on the little pen icon at the side, override the variable, and now I'm going to change this to 90 and comma 270. So all I'm doing is resetting my movement at the moment for my objects. Similarly here, I can't use this, so I'm going to right click on that. Okay, the greyed out object. If I open it up, you can see that it says it's read only. Okay, so we can't do anything with this. I can't change it. So what I need to do is to right click, and I want to override the event. Okay, and I want to put in a different outcome. So I want to set the direction variable, which is this one. But in here I want to choose 90, 270, which will make it go up or down. Okay, so I've inherited lots of the different parts of the parent, but I can change bits if I want to. So I'm going to do the same thing for the random enemy now. So this time I'm going to click on the variable definitions, but rather than choosing for my random movement, I want to go random. I want to open a bracket and I want to choose 360. And what that lets me do, that will select a random number between 0 and 360, and my character will move in that direction. Okay. Same thing again. I want to override the event here, and I want to bring in a direction variable, which is this one here, and I type in the same thing again, random, open a bracket, 360. Okay, so what that does is when it hits the wall, okay, because this is the collision with the wall, it will change to a new direction which it selects from a random number. So let's go and put these objects into the room just to see how they work, and if they work. Hopefully they do. We'll soon find out. Let's just close down some of these objects here. Let's go into the room, and now I'm going to drag in my enemy. So let's drag in firstly one of my horizontal enemies. I'm going to drag in a vertical enemy. I'm going to drag in a random enemy. So let's put that one there. So hopefully now when I play the game, these should start moving randomly. There we go. Okay, so they're moving horizontally, vertically, and randomly. So they're all working off the one object, the one enemy. So the reason why we do that is going to become very clear now. So currently, when I collide with, or when the bullet collides with my enemies, you can see now it's automatically changed. I now only have one collision event, so I had 3 before. I had collision with my horizontal, vertical and random enemy, but now I only have 1. So it reduces the number of times that I need to have a check about whether or not this object, the bullet, is colliding with the enemy. Okay, so that one's done. Let's have a check on the player object. And you can see now that when I collide with the enemy, okay, that will remove me from the game. So let's just check that they're working. Let's just open that up and just make sure. Okay, right, let's go and check that that's working. So okay, first let's test the lives. Oh, this is set to the health bar, so the health bar is reducing, you can see. So I just hit the first one there. Let's try that one, so you can see my health bar is decreasing, so I'm looking up here. Okay, so let's see if the bullets work. So that's the horizontal one that's gone, the random one is also gone, and the vertical one I missed has also gone. Okay, so that is why we use parent objects, because we can allocate code once rather than repeatedly to a number of different objects. It makes the game code more efficient, it makes the game code easier to read. It's just a better way of working with instances and objects in your game. So I think that is about all I want to cover in this tutorial. I just want to show you that it is actually working, and that if I collide with the enemy, let's get rid of the health here. Okay, I'll delete that drag and drop option, and I want to go to set lives, just to show you that it does remove a life. Drag it onto the side there. I'm going to go -1 relative. Okay, let's try it again. So I've got my game going, so this should reduce my lives by 1 this time, so it does, that's fine. And let's just check it works with the others. There we go. Okay, so that is how you use parent and child objects to streamline your code and to make your code easier to read and more efficient.